But you're doing see, the live thing is like, that's even just that. I know now if I look down, if I haven't started, thank you for listening at 11 seconds, I'm not going to make it. It's get out of music, buddy. But what would you say to the person that has, like, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? What would be your advice for that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would ask, how's it mostly being manifested? I mean, are people feeling like they're not worthy of it, or they're not capable of it, or
the whole, like, why would somebody listen to me kind of thing? Because then you talk a lot about head trash.
Yeah, and I'm probably, the answer's not going to be politically correct, but I mean, if somebody's got so much if they've got that much head trash, I don't want to hear from them. I mean, I really don't. Don't hit record. I mean, why would I? You just don't need to contribute, until you get that worked out, right? Yeah. I mean, we got enough people, who don't see it. Well, I think for a lot of people, in the context of podcasting, I know people get really hung up in audience and scope and scale and all that. I mean, I don't particularly have some overly high opinion of myself, but I'm not trying to serve the whole world. I mean, I get really tired of people who want to set this agenda. I want to change the world. Well, good luck. It's not going to happen. I mean, who do you think you are?
Right.
It doesn't mean that you're a slob, but come on. I mean, tap the brakes on that ambition. I want to change the world. I'm a guy, but this from some of our time together. Yeah, I want to have some impact on a person.
That's it.
And
that's how you change the world.
I'd like to know who that person is. And it's that ancient proverb that you've heard about, the boy and the starfish up on the shore, and the old man says, you're not going to make any difference. And he throws one back in and says, well, it mattered to that one.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, that's the deal. I get really frustrated at listening to wannabe podcasters or current podcasters. How can I need more people. I need more people. And they don't give one care about the people they got.
Yeah.
I don't want you to grow.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly am not rooting for you to grow your audience when you don't care about the one you got now. I mean, but I'm old and cranky, and so the imposter stuff. No, seriously. I mean, listen, I reached out to a guy. I mean, I should have taken this down. This is on because I help one of the co-authors of this book, Power of Peers, and he started a podcast. He was a guy that I reached out to. He appeared on like one podcast. And I'm like, dude, you should have your own. I read this book and you got something to say, and I'm interested in that whole idea, of peers getting together, whomever they may be. In his case, it was CEOs and business owners. The things that these people can learn by being together. So, reached out to him to start a podcast, and I was going somewhere with this story and completely lost my train of thought, as I am wont to do.
And it's out of the station.
It is out of the station and off the rails.
You were talking about imposter syndrome. Does that help?
Yeah. And but just our ability to minimize our perspective, our experiences. I think everybody's hung up I think part of the reason that I encounter some people who have imposter syndrome is they feel like they've got to be an expert. And sometimes it's really less about expertise as it is about kind of sharing experiences. You come from a different part of the country than I do. Your background is different from me. Our families we come from two different places. And yet there's these things that we have in common, podcasting, chief among them, snarkiness, love for music. I mean, there are these commonalities, but for me to think that I can't benefit from your experience, not to mention your expertise, or for me to minimize my own, is just wrong-headed. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, people have to get over it. And I'm hopeful that there's enough people like me. You know, I'm by nature an encourager. You know, I want people to elevate. I mean, I registered higher human performance years ago for a reason. That'll take you to my work website too, because it is what I want to do, but I'm not trying to do that at scale, you know.
Right.
So the audience and stuff doesn't matter. So it's a long-winded way to answer the question, but
well, I know I can't. It's been a while. I can't remember what the original name of it was because I know you changed your one show to the Peer Advantage.
yeah. Bula Network it's bulanetwork.com. Bula Network is my company name.
Okay. And I can't remember was that the one that was, no, that was the one that was Grow Great.
Well, it just started out as Bula Network, and then it morphed into. I've iterated so many times it's not even funny.
Well, that was
it's called the Peer Advantage now because about 4 years ago I got really interested in this space. I got really interested of groups of people coming together, whomever they might be, to learn from each other, just shared experience. So I thought, you know, I'm a 60-year-old ex-CEO guy. I'm like, I want to play in that space. I don't know anything about that space. I'm just learning. This was 4 years ago.
Right.
You know, and I've met people all over the country. You know, I befriend Leo, and one thing leads to another. And it's kind of how you have to do it, right? I mean, you didn't just launch out and all of a sudden you're the podcasting expert. You know, you had to pay some dues, and
yeah,
you know, it took some time, and that's how things are. That's the other thing about the imposter thing too. I mean, people want to sow the seed and they want to harvest all in one fell swoop. Right? You know, plant the seed and then, well, I want to dig it up and see if it's growing any. No, you got to leave it there, dude. You know, let it alone. Just let it alone. It'll be fine. Let it breathe.
Yeah.
You know, now I want to dig it up and look at it. And then I wonder why things aren't happening.
Well, did you get any feedback when you changed the name of your show? And you changed the focus a little bit, but it's kind of the same content.
It is. No, you know, I and small business people have predominantly been the audience from day one, and still are. I do get a fair amount of executive coaches and that kind of stuff because that is the arena that I'm playing in.
Right.
You know, but for me, I've never, like monetization, I've never ever tried it. Don't plan on trying it. For me, it's just, and I've told you this before offline, it's just a way for people to get some sense of me. You can click play and think, I don't like this guy at all, or I really like this guy. Yeah. Either way, I win. The quicker we get to know, I win. The quicker we get to yes, I win. So it's all good. You know, so I get kind of tired of the whole monetization conversation of people, but I'm a business guy. I'm a capitalist to the core. So I would absolutely, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to figuring out some way to monetize, but for me, I don't care. You know, well, I'm really trying to do things so one-on-one. It's just not even funny. And that's just my choice. So,
well, and that's why your podcast, again, we were talking earlier about having like a sales funnel. You know, that's kind of what your podcast does. You're guaranteed people to get to know you so that if you do want to work one-on-one with them, they're already jumping in.
Yeah.
Kind of having a sense of who you are.
They may stumble across me, you know, typically not. I mean, typically clients, I can tell you, are probably going to find me on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And at LinkedIn, I'm going to have some of my episodes on my LinkedIn profile. And then they may go there and click. And I'm not saying that they're going to listen to an episode, right, but just hearing me talk. I mean, we make judgments on people pretty quickly, you know, when we can listen to them. You know, and I am who I am all the time. I mean, I'm not that guy who's one way, and
right.
That would be exhausting. I have a hard enough time just being who I am. That's difficult enough.
Yeah. The Jim was on Podcast Junkies, and that was like one of the best compliments I've ever had was, Dave is pretty much what you get on mic is what you get in person. And I was like, well, there you go. I'm doing something right.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're doing a lot right.
I can't imagine if I had to walk around talking like this all the time.
Right.
Hey, what's good? It's really great to meet you. I'm Mr. High Energy Podcast Guy.
Yeah. You do need to bring that out every now and again, though. Yeah. You know, Binky and the Wiz and that kind of stuff.
I wish I had it. I was digging through these old cassettes, and I found, maybe I do have it. I found, and I know exactly where Binky and the Wiz came from. I found an episode. I guess I don't have it, but I used to literally, I would record every David Lee Roth interview off the radio. And there's one where there was a famous Van Halen story where you have a writer when you're a band, and it's like, this is what we need. We're going to be in town. We want this food. And they used to have a thing that said no brown M&Ms in the dressing room.
Right.
And they put that because if they walked in and saw brown M&Ms, they knew nobody read the writer.
Yeah.
And it wasn't them trying to be like a bunch of
high maintenance or anything. Yeah.
And so he was on like Rockline or some old interview show, and the guy brought in a bowl of nothing but brown M&Ms. And David Lee Roth is like, oh, brown M&Ms, man. Good. Oh, man, it makes me emotional just to run my fingers through it. So if you do that, and then he even went, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing a David Lee Roth imitation. Binky's just pushed my voice a little harder. And, but yeah, my favorite David Lee Roth line of all time, man. Don't let it get you down, man, because life's a bitch anyways. Right? And I was like, wow, the philosophy of David Lee Roth.
Oh, yeah. Deep thinking, deep thoughts with David Lee Roth.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I have numerous cassette tapes of David Lee Roth interviews. And because half the time, you still don't know. He was on Jay Moore show. The comedian has a show. And because it was interesting, because Jay Moore is a giant Van Halen fan. And you could just tell through half the stuff that Jay was somewhat thrown because he had no idea what David Lee Roth was talking about. And I think that's another guy that what you hear on Mike is what you get. He's I think he's kind of a bizarre, he's
out there.
Yeah. I think he lives in Japan or some place in, Asia now and, whatever. So he's a dude, but yeah, when I was listening to those, I'm like, wow, that's Binky, man.
That's funny. The dude had great rock and roll pipes though, man.
Yeah, I did. Oh, to me, that was
classic.
Yeah, to me, there were two great frontmen. One was David Lee Roth, because the thing that blew it for me with David Lee Roth is I saw him after he went to Van Halen, and he was doing what I found out was shtick. And I didn't know it was shtick when he had 20,000 people in the arena, and he's going, look at all the people here tonight, man. And then he would come out and it's like, I forgot the effing words. And everybody's like, look at him, he's an idiot. Then I see him on it was a concert with Cinderella and Extreme, and they were literally buy one ticket, get one free. This is in the era of Nirvana, and that was just dead. So I went to see it. I'm like, oh, how bad can it be? I like these bands. And he came out, and there's literally, it's an outdoor venue. The grass isn't even filled. There's nobody. It's just, there's nobody there. And he comes out and goes, look at all the people here tonight, man. And I was like, where? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Invisible people.
And then he forgot the words, and I'm like, oh man, that was shtick. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then my favorite was he had just gone to Vegas and failed. He'd failed as a Vegas lounge singer, and he had this sequin jacket on, and he came out, and the guy starts playing like ragtime piano. You can do like an old Western kind of thing. He's like, yeah, my old lady says if I don't quit drinking, she's going to leave me. I sure am going to miss her, man. And I was like, oh, this is bad. This is like my childhood hero, A, is losing his hair, and B, is doing bad shtick on.
It's like that bad Bill Murray character on Saturday Night Live, that lounge singer that Bill Murray was. Right. That was a great bit, though.
Yeah.
So, those bits are disappointing. Years and years ago, I was in the consumer electronics business for years. Yeah. And so in Vegas, Rodney Dangerfield. So anyway, a bunch of the guys said, let's go see Rodney Dangerfield. So we go see Rodney Dangerfield. And at some point in the show, there's some voice back at the back, there's some heckler, and he throws out some barb. So then had some clients or somebody wanted to go the next night. I'm like, crap, just went, So we go the next night. Exact same thing happened in the exact same spot in the show. And I was so disappointed. And I thought, really? You got a stinking plan out there. I mean, the exact same line, the exact same deal. So bits are fun.
That's interesting. Because you think, wow, how did he come up with that so fast? And what a great singer.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I just blew how you felt about Rodney Dangerfield.
Well,
oh man.
I remember.
We didn't give him any respect anyway, so who cares?
Well, since you're such a music guy, what's your favorite? Do you have like oh man, that was the concert ever? Like your top concert you've ever seen? That's hard to do.
Oh man, yeah. And my tastes are all over the board, as you likely know. No, I mean, Tom Petty's on my mind because obviously his death recently, and I got to see him a number of times.
Who have you seen the most?
This will shock you. College, 1975, Gordon Theater, downtown Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm just enrolled at LSU, and a midnight concert with a guy named Jimmy Buffett. His Coral Reefer band was one guy and a guitar, and he had a guitar.
Wow.
All acoustic. And this was back when he was a real troubadour.
Right.
He came to Baton Rouge a lot. He's all through the Gulf Coast. And there was a period of about 2 years that I had to go. I had to see him at least 12 times. Now, I don't listen to him at all. I'm happy for his commercial success, but back when it was real troubadourish kind of stuff, he's got to be up there as one that I've seen a lot. Got to see the Eagles in a nice, relatively intimate venue here. Don Henley was doing a fundraiser for his Walden Woods project thing. And maybe a 3,000 seat venue. And that was pretty stinking spectacular. So I've seen. The only person on my bucket list that I have not seen that I really want to see is Van Morrison. I've seen, I knocked Randy Newman off the list some years ago. I'd never seen him. James Taylor, I knocked him off the list. I'm a huge Jackson Browne fan. I've seen Jackson Browne quite a bit. David Lindley, his lead guy for years and years. I've seen David. You talk about an eclectic guy now.
Yeah.
You just look at the outfits the guy wears, and he's but if it's got strings on it, he doesn't need frets. It just needs strings, and he can play it. It's crazy.
Yeah, my brother got mad at me once where my uncle had a banjo, and I picked it up and figured out kind of how it was tuned, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I figured out a couple chords, and my brother just looked at me and goes, "I hate you." And I go, "Why?" He goes, "If it's got strings, you can play it." And I go, "I have no idea what I'm doing." He goes, "It sounds really good though." And I'm like, "Well, I'm just, I'm playing guitar."
I hate guys like you too.
Until I met a violin. That is not, that's all in the bow. And that's.
You tapped out on the violin, did you?
I was like, oh man, it sounded like I was, hanging Bernie upside down. It was, it's not good.
How is Bernie?
Bernie is on my last nerve. I love the cat to death. My living room right now is a giant, you cannot see carpet in my living room because Bernie is having incontinence issues.
Oh,
where he will poop.
That's not good.
A lot, but it's like once a week. And then it was like, and I was okay. I could deal with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. And then this week he peed, and that's when I went, dude, we are now into deal breaker kind of stuff. And I actually,
so what are we thinking?
Well, I'm going to take him to the vet probably. And he's going to look at me and go, "Your cat is 18." And I'm going to go, "Uh-huh." And he's like, "Your cat's 18.
I didn't know he was 18.
Yeah, he's 18. He's an old guy. And actually, I had dinner with my ex-wife last week because I'd lent her some money because she was going to move out of town to take this other nursing job. And then her dad died. So she decided to stay in town with her mom, but she'd quit her job. So she had no job. So she called me and said, "I know you're like the last person I should ask for a favor, but I'm going to lose my phone. And I've got a job interview that I think is going to happen. Can you lend me some money for my phone?" So I did. So I went up last week because she got the job, which is cool. And so good. She paid me back. And I said, "Do you know, of any, you are a cat person. I am not." And she said, "He's 18. And I'm like, "Oh, that explains a lot."
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I was trying to hang off on, as we affectionately used to refer to it as, going for the pink juice.
Yeah, exactly. Until
I was thinking my stepson, or ex-stepson or whatever, who was basically the owner of Bernie. I thought he was going to be coming home for Thanksgiving. Well, he's in the Purdue marching band, which means literally he would be home for Thanksgiving and have to leave almost in the middle of Thanksgiving to get back by Friday because they have this big parade thing. So he may not be around. So it's kind of like, And what's weird is he'll go like 4 days of like no problem. I'm like, oh, cool, whatever it was. And then, but the pee thing he did right in front of me. Like I'm on a treadmill in my living room and he walks up and I was like, and so and the minute I picked him up, he was like, and he knows it's wrong. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Because if he's the one day,
don't assume that he's got control.
Yeah, that's it. And I was like, it just may be a case where he needs some kitty depends, but I'm like, that doesn't
work for you.
Doesn't work. So it's one of those where it's like,
yeah. No, well, these are tough decisions.
Yes. Why? And I was thinking about that. Have you ever had I know you had your 2 dogs that you had to put down.
I had put down one, and the other one, she was pushing 18. He was right at 17. So
and
they lived a perfectly long life. But
I had a Shih Tzu that was 14, and I thought about, I don't know any dogs that I've ever grown up with. Eventually, they all have to they have health issues, and you have to like help nature along a little bit. Yeah. And I was like, because I don't know of anybody that's had a pet that they woke up and Fluffy was gone. It's like, no, it's usually.
I only had it happen with Rosie. Rocky and Rosie were a brother and sister. They were White West Highland Terriers, and he had a growth, and we had made the decision based on prior dogs. I'm like, I'm not going to wait too long. I've done that. That's bad. I would rather be too early than too late. So, but then Rosie, we just went out one day and she had dropped.
Oh, wow.
I've never had that happen.
See, I've never heard of that from anybody. So, Daniel says, love Bernie a little more and he won't have that problem. I've been doing that too. It's like I went from, because I used to because he's 18. I don't want to beat him up, but I would smack him on his butt or whatever and then stick him in the cat box. They're like, dude, this is wrong, And so I tried that for like a week. And that's again, everything seemed cool. I'm like, all right, so if I just pick it up and don't make a big deal about it, maybe it's okay. And it's like, I walked down yesterday and I'm like, oh, dude, please quit doing this. And the fun thing is,
maybe he's hacked that he's not getting enough airtime.
That's it. That? I need to up the production on his show. But he's my buddy. Like it's usually I'm surprised he hasn't interrupted because I realized I left the door open. Because every day he's like literally right here on my desk.
Right.
It's like his new thing. He went from sitting in the tub to sitting on my desk. So we shall see. But it's one of those where it's like
hold a good thought for Bernie.
Yeah, it's like, all right, if I do this soon, that means because last year the only time he'd ever done anything in the house before in the wrong place was I had a Christmas tree on a table, and then the drape went under. For whatever reason, he would go under the drape and poop. And I was like, so Christmas is over and I go to put a present. I'm like, what is all this? It's all dried up.
This is what I think of your tree.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm worried to put up a tree again. I'm like, okay. So there you go. I love him to death. That's it.
Yeah.
So,
but, so big Thanksgiving plans?
Hanging out with my brother. So
how's he doing?
It's weird. My brother is, he looks completely normal and I will talk to him and have a great time. And then every now and then something he's just got parts of he was in a car accident a couple years ago. And there are times when the one that really threw me for a loop was I was talking to my sister and she was telling me about our cousin Karen, who is my mom's sister's daughter, which is basically the same. They were like, my cousin Lee was my age. Everybody in my mom's sisters had like a twin on the other side. They were basically my mom and my sister were having kids at the same time. So Karen is kind of my brother's,
equal.
Twin equal. Yeah. And I went over and I said, I was talking to Kathy and she said something about Karen and he went, who's Karen? And it's weird because I can't go, what do you mean who's Karen?
Right.
Because that makes him feel bad. And I'm like, it's, Aunt Mary's daughter. And he's like, what does she look like? And I was like, wow, this is because I've seen you play the guitar for her and her sing. And they're like, so it's just a weird hole. And,
but some days are different than others, I assume.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, it's kind of like my brother's brain is like a 386 processor, for those of us that remember that. So I went with him the one day, we drove over to Pennsylvania to this place called Craniacs. It's like the world's largest Christmas store. And it was insane. So we took the great nieces and nephews, his grandchildren, and he looked at me, he goes, this is like the hardest thing ever. And I go, why? He goes, because all I want to do is spend time with my grandkids. And he goes, tomorrow I'm going to be completely wasted because I spent time with my grandkids. So what happens is he gets all this stimulus and then he goes to bed, and like that is still being processed overnight. And he will wake up the next day, to the point where my sister-in-law says there are times when like his speech is almost slurred, or it's just, he talks really slow to put.
So he pays the price for the good days.
So it's one of those things where I always have to kind of check, like, how's he doing? I was going to stop by, and it's like, because I don't want to like give him like, I'm stimulus, you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
So,
you don't want to add to the problem.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. And the thing that really threw me for a loop is I went over, and he said, could you help me? I need to plant some grass in my front yard. And I'm like, yeah, because he had a tree ripped out. I'm like, yeah. So I go over there. My sister-in-law kind of pulls me aside and says, I don't know if you know this or not, but you're not helping. You're like, your goal here is to make sure he doesn't do any of this, because any kind of physical activity or things like that
makes it worse.
And so we rented a rototiller, and I'm out there, and it's just shaking my shoulder out of a socket. You know, he's like, let me try one. I'm like, no, it's good. Well, then you get into this weird dichotomy of big brother, little brother. And he's like, he just kind of grabbed it, you know, and he did a little. I'm like, all right, that's enough. Let me, you know, carry on. And sure enough, like a half hour later, he looks at me and goes, oh, he goes, this is bad. I go, what's that? He goes, I'm getting a pain in my stomach. And there are times when he will almost pass out. And he's been to doctors numerous times. They can't really figure out what's going on. And so he goes through this weird thing where he almost passes out, has, as he calls it, extreme diarrhea. He can't decide which end it's going to come out. Either he's going to vomit or whatever. And then he goes from that to where he's really, really cold, but you put him under blankets and he's sweating to death. And that goes for about 10, 15 minutes. And then he slowly comes back, and then he's just wasted. And
a head injury in his accident, I assume.
Yeah. So that's the problem. He had, I forget what they call it. There's some sort of acronym, you know, like extreme EHT or so, like extreme head trauma or something like that. And so, and it's so he's a good guy. I love him to death, but it's one of those things where I think he's normal, you know.
That's awful.
And about the time you think things are cool,
right,
they're not. So
and it's stressful for everybody in his life, I'm sure.
Well, the thing that threw me for a loop, the last time that happened, after the grass thing, my sister-in-law called me and said, can you kind of come over, because Doug's having one of his spells? And she goes, and I need to pee. She goes, and I haven't really left him since.
Yeah.
And I go over, and he's under these blankets sweating to death, looking not great. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of spooky to look at. So, but they keep taking him back to doctors and testing this and testing that. And, you know, it's spooky.
Well, you got to hope that medical science can catch up and provide some relief for him. Yeah.
So
that's awful.
But anyway, so thanks, man, so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thanks for asking. I don't know that I contributed greatly, but
you did. So the color commentary was awesome. So
yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, we'll see.
And now I want to, if your goal of putting The Power of Peers there was to sell a copy, I was like, I need to buy that book.
Well, or you can just go to my I did an audio summary. I should know the episode. It's 9 chapters, and I did 9 episodes where I just kind of walk through it.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I've been listening to that anyway.
That's the cheap way to do it.
All right.
I don't know. I got interested in it, you know, so I'm like, I've pivoted the podcast, so I'm pivoting my own career. So I'm diving deep into that space, and there's some really cool things happening around the globe that, you know, and the stupid thing is it's like that many people that even take any advantage. And yet we've got all this empirical evidence that proves if we will be intentional about who we surround ourselves with, it really matters. Go figure, you know, what our parents told us was right. Don't hang around those kids. You'll get in trouble hanging around those kids. You know? And we grow up and we just, whoever enters our life, that's who's in our life, you know? Yeah. So I've kind of at this late age of life decided I'm going to start being more intentional about the people that I kind of let into my life, you know,
and then
see how it goes.
What do we got to do to get you to pick up a guitar? Because I know you talk about that on your show.
Yeah, I should, you know, and I look at guys like you and I hear these stories, and I think part of it is you had to be so stinking dedicated when you learned it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because everybody tells the same thing, right? Vinyl records playing the record, slowing the record down, lifting up the tone arm, going back and playing it again, and just trying to figure it out. And now look at what we've got. I mean, you go on YouTube and people, okay, put this finger here, put this, you know, and then you got lard butts like me. They're like, you know, no, I figured out. I love the guitar and I know way too much about it for a guy that doesn't play and always have, but I clearly don't love it enough to want to play it. I so appreciate guys who do and who can. And of course, and then I take a look at, you know, all the junkies out there and I'm like, you know, the guy's been on junk for 20 years and it can just shred the thing. I mean, I'm sober. I've never had a drink of any alcohol in my life. I've never smoked weed. I've never done, you know, surely I could learn this thing.
The hard part is this, he said, making a chord is when I make a chord, you end up with dents in your finger.
Right.
And that's the part that when you first start is
well, like, I cured that problem. So 15 or so years ago, there's a guy named Denny Zager. Denny Zager, you remember the song In the Year 2525?
Barely. I know the title more than the song.
Okay. One hit wonder.
Yeah.
It was Zager and Evans. Denny Zager, then he was a luthier. He built, he would modify guitars. So he made an easy play guitar. The action on it is crazy low and it's really good and it's super easy to fret. So I took that excuse away. Nah, still not doing it. You know, it's clearly just not important enough to me. It should be. Well, you know, and I think back, I mean, I have owned Martins. I have owned some expensive guitars and I couldn't replicate one chord. I mean, that's how pathetic I am. And I'm like, what's wrong with it? It's just like a muse. It just sits over there and mocks me daily. You know, you don't know how to play me. You're an idiot. You know, even Keith Richards can play me like crazy, you know? So,
and he's got that weird,
but I got great appreciation for you and guys that do it. I probably just don't have the musical talent. I clearly don't have the obsession like what you did. I was never going to do that. I was never going to do that. Yeah. Now, I could sit and write all day long, you know, so I was that weird.
There you go.
I was that weird kid. So
different passions. So.
Yeah, exactly. You know, or draw. I could do that all day. So anyway,
I'm the king of stick figure theater.
Yeah.
So. All right.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. Thanks, man.
Thanks, sir. All right. And everybody else, will see you in 2 weeks. If you are, I'm looking out here, a member of the School of Podcasting, we have SOP office hours in 54 minutes. So it's just more Q&A with Dave. So.
And did you get whatever input? Do you need to make one last call for alcohol for the
I think
help for your topic, or
I think we're good. Like I said, I'll listen to this back, but most of those you know, you sent me in a different area. I forgot about technical and content wise. I was thinking more content. I'm like, oh yeah. And Miss Eileen is like the thing about iTunes. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot completely about the whole.
Well, the technical stuff to me is more, I mean, it's less subjective.
Yeah.
The other stuff, you be, well, wait a minute. I do that intentionally. That's not a mistake.
Yeah.
I can promise you I do some things intentionally that people think, well, that's a mistake. Well, he screwed that up.
The mistake that Eric, the guy from the podcast review show that he said the thing that he hears a lot is people will ask a question and then explain their question. So they'll be like, you know, what's your favorite concert? Because I know you've seen, you know, Petty a lot. You've seen these guys and that guy and this guy. And I know you really like this and this and that. And by the time you finally shut up, the person can't remember the question because you just talked for 30 seconds. It should be because you've seen Petty and Jackson Browne and all these guys and blah, blah, blah. What would you say is your favorite concert? Right. And he goes, I see people do that all the time. And I was like, so it's stuff like that isn't like earth shattering. It's just a little reposition sometimes can really lead to better content because
it tightens it all up.
Yeah. That's literally a lot of what it is. It's just tightening things up. It's like, oh, this is good. Here's something you could do just to make it a little better. So, but
it's the difference in you going and seeing a live band and me as a non-musician. I can go see a band and you can tell when a band's tight and when they're not tight.
Yeah.
And it's it's subtle maybe, but it's big.
I almost spent $40, I think it's today, to go see Yngwie Malmsteen. He's actually literally like 10 minutes from my house. And I'm like,
there you go.
And I went and I was like, $40 for a ticket. I'm like, $40 for a ticket that holds 600 people. I mean, it's a really small venue.
Yeah.
So I still may I still may
Yeah,
bite.
so you could really see the finger action.
Yeah, exactly.
You
So,
could really see him dancing on the fretboard.
but he's a bit of a one. He has these licks, and you will hear
Oh,
them
yeah.
over. You know,
Yeah. How old is that guy now? That guy's pushing it.
yeah,
He's got to be.
He's got to be pushing 60.
Yeah.
Yeah,
First thing, he's got to be my age or even older.
he's still wearing the leather pants, which I'm like, you know,
No.
yeah,
No, that's a
it doesn't look
mistake.
good at times.
Yeah,
but
speaking of mistakes, that's a mistake. Leather pants on a 60-year-old guy. I don't care what your physique is. It's a mistake. It's a big mistake.
So nice.
Well, I got to see War and Wet Willie together. So, and Alice Cooper. So, you know, that's how old I am. So anyway, funny.
Awesome. All right. Well,
all right, man.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah, you too.
And
see everybody. Thanks for having me.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.